And we're back. Dani Olmo responds to Arsenal transfer link before Spain's World Cup campaign. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I know we've been linked with him a few years ago. I know he's obviously a decent player. You don't play for Barcelona if you're not. We wanted him, I'm sure, when he was in Croatia. I'm sure when he played in Germany. And no doubt them links have continued. He's focusing on the World Cup. I very much doubt, despite what Barcelona seem to be doing, trying to get Alvarez, got Gordon, not knowing what's going on with Rashford, they want to keep him, and I'm sure he's happy there. But for what it's worth, the technical level, the versatility, his ability to do mavericky moments, I want to say it'd be my first choice, but I wouldn't be against it. Let's see, because again, forgive me if I'm wrong, there hasn't been any links. We've seen Tonali, we've seen Livramento, we've seen Morgan Rogers, and several other players where they're slightly more aggressive, but maybe there's something in it, or maybe we're in that season where it's silly season for links in it. But nonetheless, well, that's cold water. Dani Olmo has been linked with a move to Arsenal this summer. And then in the same breath, Dani Olmo has ruled out a potential move to Arsenal this summer and insists he will stay at Barcelona. The 28-year-old has just finished his second season with Barcelona, helping them win La Liga for the second consecutive campaign. Olmo, who joined Barcelona, or rejoined Barcelona because he started his career there in a 51 million deal with Leipzig 2 years ago, has been linked with Arsenal in the summer transfer window, with reports in Spain claiming the Premier League champions are preparing a 51.8 million pounds, 60 million euros offer. I mean, our manager's Spanish, bunch of coaching staff there, bunch of players. I'm sure will be an attractive opposition if he apologies, if he wants to move to the Premier League. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that he wants to make that move. And again, despite him playing it down, apparently, we've seen players play moves down and move. So you never know, people, but I don't really believe this. He's insisted he's focusing on Spain's campaign this summer and has no intention of leaving the camp now. When asked about a link, he told Mundo Deportivo, no Barca fans can rest easy. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to say. And he's also endorsed the move for Anthony Gordon. Ultimately, the best players have to play for Barcelona. Gordon is a signing that will raise the team's level. We welcome him, of course, and wish him a good World Cup, although not against Spain, fair enough. These are world-class players. Anything that comes in to contribute and raise the team's level will always be welcome. He's also confident that Barcelona can overtake PSG and Arsenal and reach the Champions League next season. So this don't seem like somebody that wants to keep it moving. We're so close. I think we have it. But in the end, it comes down to details, nuances, goals, centimeters. And I think if you go and look at what Pep Guardiola said recently, that makes sense, if I'm completely honest. I just have in my mind that PSG win the Champions League 3 years on the trot. They've done it 2 years in a row. And I think it's destiny that it's PSG Barcelona, because that's a Luis Enrique derby, an Osman Dembele derby. Osman Dembele, you've won the World Cup and 3 Champions Leagues, in it. Bloody hell, he's had quite a career from a wonder kid to what he's doing now. And there was a few years he kind of was by the wayside. But we all have that burning desire because we know we can do it and that we can win it. That's why we were so frustrated last year against Inter and this year against Atletico Madrid. Because in my opinion, they weren't better teams than us and we could have been in the final. But looking at the details, nuances, and the final is just one game. Then, of course, PSG had a spectacular Champions League run and Arsenal is also a very good team. Fair enough. I can't expect you to say anything more. We don't need to keep waffling about that. One player that could sign for us, people, Arsenal interested in PSG youth captain who has played for France at youth level, has a very decent defender. I think he's a left-footed centre half. I'm sure Real Madrid beat PSG in the under-19s youth league final, which is like the youth man equivalent for the Champions League. PSG recently got one over Arsenal in the final of the Champions League, but the latter may attempt to take a form of revenge by taking one of their most promising prospects, as per a report by Le Parisien. Now, I don't think it's that deep. If there's an opportunity to grab a player from PSG, many a team's going to do it. I don't know about now, but it feels like the German team's done that. PSG, very good academy. They've obviously got a couple players in and around their first team, but they not only get the best players coming from their academy, they pick the best players out of France. They, sign world-class players. It's not even with ability. It's just the realities of playing for a massive club with what they're doing under Luis Enrique. Emmanuel Mbemba, 18, the captain of PSG's under-18s, has a contract offer on the table, but Le Parisien understands that it is likely he'll depart the European champions this summer. Paris FC, who, you look PSG's ground and Paris FC is right there, and it would mean he stays in France, apparently to rival Arsenal. The France under-18 international with 8 caps is subject of an approach from Arsenal, who have presented their project to the player. Should the Premier League side pull off the deal, they would like to send Mbemba out on loan in a foreign league. However, they are not the only interested party. Paris FC are also in the race to take Mbemba off their city rivals this summer. And I'm sure whether it's Paris or a couple of maybe different French teams, or, like I said, with the German example, there'll be a lot of people sniffing around. Now, for Arsenal, obviously, he can see what we're doing with young players, the French connection. It would make sense. But if he's looking at it analytically and he really believes his ability, he will get a move, maybe back to PSG, maybe to Arsenal, maybe to another top team in one of the top 5 leagues. But as an 18-year-old, stability is everything. From a selfish Arsenal point of view, grab him. If he wants to go on loan and play in the top division, that's great for us. He can either be reintegrated into Arsenal's first team, or you get him for free or for a nominal fee, and you could sell him for a profit. For him, maybe going to Paris FC, spending a year or two there, playing week in, week out, first team football, and then the move comes, might be something else. But we need to kind of do these smart things. That's why I'm so big for this. Obviously, we brought in a couple of lads from Scotland. We've brought them Quintero twins. Obviously, we've got Max Dowman. We've got Monga, who seems to be coming in. We want players that can progress. We want young players to come from Haaland or be wherever, we even got Irish kids. We want players that come from Haaland or wherever they've come from, progress to the first team, become first team players. Great. They might not quite be of the standard to have a long-term career, but we might be able to sell them for 30, for 40, for 50 million, which obviously gets reinvested. You know where I'm going with that. So I'm all for it if we could do that. It seems to be moving towards a departure, people. And Mbemba does not have the points to gain a work permit to play in England. Should Arsenal sign the player, they would consider an initial loan to another league. Now, maybe I'm stepping above here, but just because I'm happy we won the Premier League, and from the fans to the players to, Berta and Richard Garlick, and apologies, all of those people, even down to Stan and Josh Kroenke, the club is singing from the same hymn sheet. Now, you could say it's unethical, but you look at Chelsea with what they've got with a stable of clubs. You look at what City have got. I do think the next step is for us to have a couple of affiliate clubs, especially targeting France, because if you did grab him and you get one of the lower top division French teams, like a Strasbourg, with the greatest of respect, you could provide young players with an opportunity to play in a very good league. I always say I think the French league is the most likely like for like to the Prem, if that makes sense. Because I think when people don't deep it, yeah, French league is very physical. Why do you think? Yeah, again, I ain't got no data to go off this, and people have flopped coming from France. People have succeeded coming from other divisions, right? But like I said, top 5 leagues. So you got France, England, Spain, Germany. I'm missing one out, so they can't be that top. Spain, England, France, Germany. For the life of me, one's escaped me, but you get the point where I'm going, yeah? In my opinion, whether it's French youth internationals, French players that have stayed in France and then moved to this country, or players from wherever that have been bought from a French club, I do think you see a correlation with them succeeding in England if they've had some experience. So, yeah, I'm going off topic, but yeah, man, I'll be all for that. Apparently, we've scouted him several times during the season and we've presented our project to the player. So, if there's a deal to be done, there's a deal to be done. Anyone having Morgan Rogers? I am. Anyone like Morgan Gibbs-White, who was in with a whisker of going to Spurs? Anyone having him? Aston Villa are among Morgan Gibbs-White's admirers, but already have players in his favored position. More could develop as the window progresses, particularly if Arsenal and Chelsea activate interest in Morgan Rogers. If we can't get Morgan Rogers, I can't lie, I want Gibbs-White. Gibbs-White would be a nasty signing for Aston Villa and Unai Emery on top of what they're doing. I'd rather play for Aston Villa than Tottenham Hotspur at this moment in time. As much as I don't want to, pardon me, say anything good about Spurs, you never know what next season being a foundation could be for them going forward if De Zerbi gets their act together. But yeah, people, I'm all for Morgan Rogers, but let me know your thoughts. Would you have Morgan Gibbs-White? Apparently, Man United now look the favourites to sign Tonali, people. He's going to cost big bucks. I can't see us getting Krupi, Morgan Rogers, and Tonali, and a defender as much as I want all of that. Tonali's been linked with Arsenal, Manchester City, and Manchester United. Don't really appear that there's any aggressive links for us with a central midfielder. Man United have obviously brought one in and might do other things. It seems like you never know with City, but they did bring in Elliot Anderson on top of what they did in January. Or they're looking to bring him in. So I'm not sure, people. Apparently, Tonali's a top priority for the Red Devils. Man United, if you don't know. Arsenal, meanwhile, it seems that Tonali is one option, but not necessarily their focus. With my sources, which be in this article, suggesting that the player could be West Ham's Matthias Fernandes, who's been linked with Arsenal, Manchester United, PSG, and actually Real Madrid. So I think the commonality is at some point, Arsenal City, I'm reading something with Liverpool, Manchester United, all of us are looking at central midfielders. And we were linked with him in January. You know, who knows what's going on there? I'm keen to see what's going on. Seems like a couple of players could leave Newcastle. You know, obviously Gordon's gone. You know, apparently they want to move on Visa. Tonali still linked with moves away, as is Lewis Hall and Livramento. And there's probably some players I'm missing out. We'll have to see. Man United and Ineos are on the same page. After securing Edison, it looks like they're ready to move for Tonali next. Newcastle don't want to sell. They insist on at least 100 million. However, Manchester United can't and won't pay that. So expect them to test the waters with around 70, 80 million to start with. Fair play, people, if I'm honest. So we'll have to see. Again, Trossard is being linked with an exit. Apparently, we're open to an exit. According to a report from the Daily Briefing, Arsenal are open to offers for Trossard in the summer transfer window, as the versatile forward could leave the club. The 31-year-old is entering the final year of his contract with the Gunners. It is claimed to be an important factor behind the decision to sanction a possible exit. Premier League clubs are showing interest, along with other clubs in Europe, as the Belgium international could be available to bolster their own ranks. It would represent a ruthless move for Arsenal. To be fair, you probably Mikel Arteta's best attacking signing. You've been a great serviceman, Trossard. You've provided some clutch moments. You've actually had a good season, if I'm honest with you, even though initially at the start of 2026, I think you dropped off a cliff. You're a cult hero, man, and you're a Premier League winner. But when you look at it without emotion, if it was FIFA, I think Martinelli and Trossard could go. With it being real life and me considering all the factors, I think if you're going to do it, it's one of the two goals this summer. The next one goes next summer because, again, we still need depth. As much as we need to upgrade and stuff, we need to be wary of too much change. And it depends because, on one hand, I think Martinelli's got more of a market because he's younger, all of these things. On another hand, Trossard is more experienced. He's got a year left on his deal. He is going to be cheaper. He's on less wages. So it all depends what offers are put on the table to Arsenal and how people view it. For Trossard, you know, you've got a lot of first team football this summer, but if we go and get two new attackers, then I'm not sure what's being said for you. You could get a long-term contract elsewhere, either in the Premier League or abroad. Yeah, I don't know, people. Absolute bargain for 27 million in totality, if I'm honest with you. And it doesn't surprise me that he's got interest from anyone everywhere. Thank you, Mudryk, I would say, because if Mudryk didn't flop, the move didn't flop, then we don't get this individual. 174 appearances to his name at Arsenal, 36 goals and 34 assists. And many has been clutch, if I'm honest with you, man. Very good player, but we do need to upgrade. We do need reinforcements. And we probably do need to move on one of the Martinellis and Trossards. And without a doubt, Gabriel Jesus. You'd be shocked, if I'm honest, if Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli and Trossard are all here come next season or the next 18 months. But weirder things have happened. We've been linked with Bacola. We've been linked with Leandro Trossard. Which one do you lot fancy? Newcastle are still being linked with Ethan Wanyeri. We have gone over that. Everton, we have covered this in a previous live stream, are being linked with Gabriel Jesus. Krupi, apparently Liverpool are eyeing it. I don't know if there's an element of truth there. It probably is because Areola, they're even saying with him 100 million. A number of these targets, it's 100 million. Declan Rice and Lauren James of Chelsea have been shortlisted for PFA Player of the Year. Big up Gabriel, David Raya, and Declan Rice for their nominations. And also Haaland, Cherky, and Bruno Fernandes, people. We're not haters. Gabriel Jesus is still being linked with Martinelli, allegedly Bayern Munich. Martinelli still being linked with Bayern Munich. Do you not believe this? Apparently, Atletico Madrid are also admirers. Apparently, Thomas Tuchel has given a glowing reference of Martinelli. He wanted him when he was the manager. I don't think we move Martinelli on, but there's very few players that, if you were to say form, then some of the players that I would consider untouchable, like a Saka, for example, could be moved on. But if I'm honest with you, if your name is not Timber, David Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, I would say the fullbacks for right now, even though Calafiori is linked with Real Madrid, I'm probably forcing it, but Hincapié, Calafiori, for me, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Declan Rice, I'd obviously say Saka. We don't need to be dumb. We know Gyökeres isn't moving. We know Eze isn't moving. Probably Havertz and Odegaard, we could put that to bed. But generally, if your name wasn't listed along the names I said first, and I know not everyone's going to be moved on, I consider like anything could happen, if that makes sense. Like offers could happen, like moves could happen, innit? There's very few players I think are untouchable, if that makes sense. Rodgers would be too expensive anyways, apparently by Munich like him. Martinelli, on the other hand, would be affordable, with Flock claiming Arsenal would be prepared to sell for 45 million euros, people. I would say Martinelli needs to move on, yeah. But the one thing with him is I do think you go somewhere and you score a lot more goals. I don't know why I believe that. Jose Mourinho apparently wants Calafiori, if that makes sense. And Julian Alvarez doesn't want to go to London. He's got his eyes set on Barcelona. Apparently, Atletico Madrid only want to sell to PSG. We got to remember it's early days in the transfer market. There's a lot of games playing. The World Cup is another spanner in the works and things like that. There's even been rumors coming out like Julian Alvarez isn't happy with his treatment at Atletico Madrid, considering he's been playing with an injury. As I said, it's silly season. We're not going to know for the rumors.
Always